I just don't. I think we're at the end game. I think they're at the end game for both the central bank model and the nation state model. After 300 years, I think this is all coming apart. And Bitcoin will emerge as the standard, global reserve standard. And so that means, and everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. So, I think Michael Saylor has a $13 million per Bitcoin prediction out there. And I can see how you can get there, because you're talking about squeezing 400 trillion into 21 million units of Bitcoin, right? The price discovery tells you where the price is going, and they can't make any more of it. So it's not hard to come up with these numbers, and we've been right. I mean, the only really important price prediction I ever made was in 2011 at the first Bitcoin conference in Prague, when Bitcoin was a few dollars. And I said in my speech to the conference that if this works as an asset class and captures 1% or more percent of global Forex, then this is a $100,000 per coin asset. Okay, that's really the only important prediction I think that I made, because obviously if you were riding it from $1 to 100,000, you got the lion's share of gains in this asset. And to give credit, it was also Rick Falkvinja who started the Swedish Pirate Party, who was also at the event, who also did a presentation along these lines as well. So he was really also really seeing the potential of Bitcoin at that time as an asset class and being competitive in the global asset world, where I know as a stockbroker, you have a fiduciary responsibility to at least consider these assets. And if it pops up on your Bloomberg machine, it's going to gain traction, and the market's huge and the price is going to go up. That's it.
And you mentioned Michael Saylor, and we'd have to talk then about strategy and what's going on right now, as they've certainly seemed to be the leader in this new narrative that we've seen this year with the Bitcoin treasury companies. Stacy, I would love to know, what's your take on that? Is that sustainable long term? Because not every company is strategy and has been buying since 2020, and we're seeing all of these new entrants into the space. As a Bitcoiner, I love to see it, but I wonder if you think that is really sustainable for any company that wants to hop on board the Bitcoin treasury train.
Well, there's a few things. For me personally, I only look at Bitcoin as something that should be owned by the individual or the nation state at that level, for sovereignty, for purposes of sovereignty. I had mentioned at the top of this interview that, I know the number go up thing is fun and things like that, but I think sovereignty is the most important issue. And I think everybody out there should focus first on, acquiring as much Bitcoin as they possibly can and hold it, own their own keys. Now, these Bitcoin treasury companies, again, so we were doing the Orange Pill podcast. It was the lockdown of 2020. And we had just started our Orange Pill podcast, and they had turned off the global economy. And I think once they turned it back on, apparently we were all replaced with AI, of course, since 2020. But to me, like what Michael Saylor did with strategy was MicroStrategy at that time. It made perfect sense as he was describing it at that very time. What he said was that the cash on his balance sheet was a melting ice cube, right? And that made so much sense, especially at that time, because they were printing trillions of dollars and sending everybody free money, like enormous amounts of free money. We were being offered 2 million free money. So at that time, when he said, hey, this is a melting ice cube, you're like, yeah, like, I can't believe all the money we're being offered. It's crazy. So cut to today, and it's, I don't want to use this word necessarily. Okay, so like a cargo cult, right? What a cargo cult does is, if you've ever heard that term, is after World War II, when the U.S. military left this remote island in the Pacific, they had a U.S. Air Force base there, and they would bring in all the planes and deliver all these goods and amazing goods and food and packages of stuff, and like then the U.S. military left, and the local population still there were like, well, how do we get all that food in those boxes? So they took the things for the planes, and they started like just doing this and thinking like if they were going to direct a plane in, that's what brought the food. It was just that. So I think like there's an element of that, of like they've stripped down what Michael Saylor and Strategy has done to just like doing that, just the magic bit, the magic internet money sort of bit of like, oh, if we just do that and don't have an operating company and don't have like a melting ice cube on our balance sheet that we're trying to protect, that it's then about something else. Is not exactly what MicroStrategy was doing. On the other hand, as well, like if we're at an end of an era, pre-World War II, you had the same exact thing happen in Germany, which was the speculative attack, right, on the Reichsmark. So anybody who was doing the same thing of borrowing as much as possible in the collapsing currency and buying gold or assets at that time, if you had access to the capital and you could acquire as much of Reichsmarks as possible, it was a very smart thing to do. So this is in danger, I would think, of triggering that sort of collapse of this whole fiat system, not just the dollar, but the dollar is the fiat system, right? That all the other currencies are just kind of like the altcoins of that space, of the fiat space. So I don't know. It's positive and negative. It's complicated. I think there is a sort of South Sea bubble. Like if you ever see the Hogarth sort of artwork from the South Sea bubble era, like they would have signs out in the middle of the square in London and say like, here, invest in this company. We haven't decided what we're going to do yet in the South Sea area, but we're going to do something. Like, we don't know what our venture is, but it'll be something. Just give us money. There is an element of that, but there is an element of a speculative attack, which makes perfect economic sense at this sort of moment. Yeah. If the fiat system is going to collapse, which it very well should do if you saw what happened in 2020. So it's complicated. I just focus personally on the message to our audience is that stack as many sats as you possibly can, buy Bitcoin, not exposure to Bitcoin, and at the nation state level to especially if this whole fiat regime is going to shift and there will be a monetary reset. And I think there's an ongoing monetary reset. And I think it makes sense for a nation state to protect itself, to stockpile Bitcoin, to develop a strategic reserve. But yeah, that's the message is buy Bitcoin, not exposure to Bitcoin for most people.